JRF Education, myself Tasmiya Rashid, English Internet coordinator. So, നമുക്ക് ആൻസർ കീ ഒക്കെ വന്നു. ഒരുപാട് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസിൽ ചാലഞ്ചും കൺഫ്യൂഷൻസും ഒക്കെ സ്റ്റുഡൻസ് പറയുന്നുണ്ട്. ആൻഡ് ഇൻ ദിസ് സെഷൻ വിൽ ബി ഡിസ്കസിംഗ് അബൌട്ട് ദി ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ദാറ്റ് നീഡ് ടു ബി ചാലഞ്ച്ഡ്. നമുക്ക് ഷുവർ ആയിട്ട് ചാലഞ്ച് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്ന കുറച്ച് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ഇംഗ്ലീഷിൽ നോട്ട് ചെയ്തതാണ്. വി വിൽ ബി ഡിസ്കസിംഗ് ഇറ്റ് ടുഡേ. നമുക്ക് ചലഞ്ച് ചെയ്യാനുള്ള ലാസ്റ്റ് ഡേറ്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് 17 ജാനുവരി ആണ്. സോ നമ്മളുടെ ഷിഫ്റ്റിൽ വന്നിട്ടുള്ള questions in that, analyzing all the 100 questions from paper 2, കുറച്ച് questions seems very confusion or creates very kind of suspicion and confusion. നമുക്ക് കൃത്യമായി അതൊരു ക്ലാരിറ്റി കിട്ടുന്നില്ല റിഗാർഡിംഗ് സം ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ്. അതുപോലത്തെ ഒരു ആംബിഗിറ്റി ക്രിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. നമുക്കൊരു ക്ലിയർ കട്ട് പ്രൂഫ് കൊടുക്കാൻ പറ്റാത്ത രീതിയിൽ ചില ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസും ഉണ്ട്. ഓക്കെ, അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസും അറ്റ് ദി സെയിം ടൈം ചിലത് ആൻസേഴ്സിൽ തന്നെ തെറ്റു വരുന്നുണ്ട്. അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസും ആണ് വി ആർ ഡിസ്കസിങ് ഇറ്റ് ഹിയർ. 5 to 6 ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ഉണ്ട്. ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ഐ ഡി ഞാൻ മാറ്റിയിട്ടുണ്ട് സോ ദാറ്റ് നമുക്ക് ചലഞ്ച് ചെയ്യാൻ കുറച്ചും കൂടി ഈസി ആയിരിക്കും. കാരണം ഓരോരുത്തരുടെ ആ ഒരു ആൻസർ റെസ്പോൺസ് ഷീറ്റ് ഡൗൺലോഡ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് അറിയാം, നമ്മൾ മാർക്ക് ചെയ്തതനുസരിച്ച് വരുന്ന സമയത്ത് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ഐ ഡി മാറി മാറി വരും. 1, 2 എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ഐ ഡി മാറി മാറി വരും. സോ ടു ഗെറ്റ് യുവർ റെസ്പോൺസ് as well as the answer key, you just go through the question ID. Okay, so question ID യിൽ മാറ്റം വന്നിട്ടുള്ള first question that I have noted is about Northrop Frye's of criticism and about the seasons denoting corresponding genres. ആ ഒരു 4 മിത്തോയ് ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് നോർത്രപ്പ് ഫ്രൈ അനാറ്റമി ഓഫ് ക്രിറ്റിസിസത്തിൽ 4 മിത്തോയ് ഇൻട്രൊഡ്യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. യു നോ അബൌട്ട് ഇറ്റ്. Mythos of spring corresponds to comedy, mythos of summer corresponds to romance, mythos of fall corresponds to tragedy, and mythos of winter corresponds to satire. These are the 4 options given there, and the correct option in the answer key is actually 4, which means that this is the thing. And when analyzing all these 4 points, all these 4 options, what you can see is that Northrop Frye mythos of spring corresponds to comedy. ഇതിൽ ഏതാണ് തെറ്റെന്നാണ് ചോദിച്ചിട്ടുള്ളത്. ഓർ നോട്ട് ഇൻഡിക്കേറ്റിംഗ് ദി കറസ്പോണ്ടിങ് ബ്രോണേഴ്സ് എന്നാണ് ചോദിച്ചിട്ടുള്ളത്. ആക്ച്വലി mythos of spring കോമഡി, mythos of summer റൊമാൻസും, mythos of winter സറ്റയറും ആണ്. mythos of winter satire or irony എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിലാണ് Northrop Frye പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുള്ളത് ആക്ച്വലി. And coming to this particular option, you can see that mythos of fall എന്നുള്ള ഒരു ഓപ്ഷൻ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ fall എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ we can connect it to autumn. ഓട്ടമിലാണ് ആ ഒരു fall വരുന്നത്. We can connect it, but Northrop Frye never used the word fall there. Season autumn എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ തന്നെയാണ് മെൻഷൻ ചെയ്തിട്ടുള്ളത് without using fall. And anyhow നമ്മൾ ഇനിയിപ്പോൾ fall autumn ആണ് എന്ന് മെൻഷൻ ചെയ്താൽ പോലും this is actually correct. വിന്റർ റെപ്രസെന്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് സറ്റയർ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഐറണി ആണ്. ബട്ട് ദി ഓപ്ഷൻ ഗിവൺ ഹിയർ ഈസ് ആക്ച്വലി 4 സറ്റയർ ആണ് കൊടുത്തിട്ടുള്ളത്. മേ ബി ഇതാണെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒരു രീതിയിൽ സ്പെസിഫിക്കേഷൻ പറയാമായിരുന്നു. കാരണം ഫോൾ എന്നുള്ളൊരു വേർഡ് സീസണൽ ആയിട്ട് നോർത്രപ്പ് ഫ്രൈ പറഞ്ഞിട്ടില്ല എന്നെങ്കിലും സ്പെസിഫിക്കേഷൻ വി ക്യാൻ ഫൈൻഡ് ഇറ്റ് ഔട്ട്. ബട്ട് ആക്ച്വലി ദിസ് ഈസ് റോങ്. ആക്ച്വലി ദിസ് ഈസ് പ്യുവർലി റോങ്. ക്ലിയർ കട്ടായിട്ട് റോങ് ആണ്. ആൻഡ് യു ക്യാൻ സീ ദി ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ഐ ഡി as 2399. Okay, 399 is the question ID. Coming to the next one. Next question. So coming to the second one. ആക്ച്വലി ഇതിൽ നമുക്ക് ഒരു ആംബിഗസ് സ്റ്റേറ്റ്മെന്റ് ആണെന്നേ ഉള്ളൂ. നമുക്ക് ഇതിനെ ഭയങ്കരമായിട്ട് ക്രോസ് സെക്ഷൻ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റില്ല എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. Here the thing given here is about 2 statements are given. Question ID 404 ആണ്. 2 statements are given. One is labeled as assertion and other is labeled as reason. And the assertion given here is the years after 1945 saw changes in English poetry, and some poets, despite modernism, continued romantic traditions, writing deeply personal responses to the world and engaging with eternal elemental themes. Actually, these 2 statements seems very ambiguous. നമുക്കൊരു near to 45, you know that about the postmodern period. സെക്കൻഡ് വേൾഡ് വാർ കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് പോസ്റ്റ് മോഡേൺ പീരീഡ് സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന ടൈമാണ് 1945 എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. വി ക്യാൻ അസോസിയേറ്റ് ഇറ്റ് വിത്ത് മൂവ്മെന്റ് പോയട്രി ഒക്കെ ആയിട്ട് നമുക്ക് അസോസിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും. പക്ഷേ വി കാൻ ക്ലിയർ കട്ട് ഓർ വി ക്യാൻ മേക്ക് എ ക്ലിയർ കട്ട് സ്റ്റേറ്റ്മെന്റ് റിഗാർഡിംഗ് ദാറ്റ്. നമുക്കൊരു ക്ലിയർ കട്ട് സ്റ്റേറ്റ്മെന്റ് പറയാൻ പറ്റില്ല. അങ്ങനെ ഒരു പെർട്ടിക്കുലർ സ്പെസിഫിക് എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ വി ക്യാൻ അഡ്രസ് ഇറ്റ്. മോഡേണിസം കണ്ടിട്ട് കണ്ടിന്യൂഡ് റൊമാൻറ്റിക് ട്രഡീഷൻസ് ആസ് വി സീ ഇൻ മൂവ്മെന്റ് പോയറ്റ്സ്, having some personal responses to the world, as well as discussing some eternal and elemental themes. Actually, the assertion and reason are right, but in a way correct. That's it, in a way correct. We can challenge it, but not sure whether it would be wrong. But regarding the first question that we discussed, that's wrong. This is something that is very ambiguous. That's why I pressed. Okay, so coming to the next one. Again, 2 statements. Again, assertion and reason question. You can see the assertions post-structuralism and deconstruction are virtually synonymous. Okay, and deconstruction arises out of the structuralism of Roland Barthes, and as a reaction against the certainties of structuralism. And coming to the analysis of these two statements, we can evaluate like this. Post-structuralism and deconstruction are virtually synonymous. Actually, deconstruction is often described as a main post-structuralism. And also it's a prominent method introduced by Derrida. They are not strictly synonymous. Okay, post-structuralism is actually a broader term, a broader theoretical movement. We can include philosophers and theorists like Foucault, Lacan, Barthes, Deleuze, Guattari, all among post-structuralism. Who even criticized structuralism? But coming to deconstruction, you can see it is a specific analytical method within that broader theoretical movement. Okay, so in many academic contexts, they are frequently used interchangeably. We can take it as somewhat true, but not particularly true. This is also one of the ambiguous statements. That is the thing. This also becomes one of the ambiguous things. Deconstruction and post-structuralism are actually different. Post-structuralism is one among a general term, and deconstruction is one of the analytical method that comes under post-structuralism. Coming to the second question, also second statement. Deconstruction arises out of structuralism of Roland Barthes. Okay, actually deconstruction arises as a reaction against the certainties of structuralism. Structuralism always focused on the certainties or the scientific, fixed, unified meaning, which is truly impossible as put forward by deconstructionism or post-structuralism. But it did not arise out of Roland Barthes. Roland Barthes became one among them, but developed by Derrida. Okay, it's purely developed by Derrida. So here the answer given is actually both are true, and R is the exact explanation of or the correct explanation of A. That is not at all correct. A is actually ambiguous and R is already false. Even though if you say A as true, the option should be this one. A is correct, but R is not correct. Okay, if we justify like this, virtually synonymous in ഏതെങ്കിലും രീതിയിൽ നമ്മൾ accept ചെയ്താലും 3 should be the answer, not 1. So the question ID 412 could also be challenged. Coming to the next one. Question ID 416. Here you can see a different pattern. Some lines are given and you need to chronologically arrange it. So I will read out the lines. She rose the glory of the day. Actually, this is from Edmund Spencer's The Shepherd's Calendar. Resembles life what once was deemed of life. Okay, resembles life that once was deemed of life. And this is actually from Lord Byron's The Prayer of Nature. So first one from Elizabethan age, Lord Byron from Romantic age, and every moon is dark beneath the moon. This is actually from B.P. Shelley. Okay, published in his collection of Alaster. Stanzas April 1814. That is the particular form. Anyhow, coming to again from Romantic age, then when I consider how my light is spent. This is barely you can associate it. This is about On His Blindness by Milton, about his lost sight. Again from Puritan or Caroline age. Then one more is there. When the Chronicle of Wasted Time, I see a description of the fairest whites. This is actually from Shakespeare. Okay, Shakespeare wrote it. Shakespeare's sonnet 106. So you know about these two, about this one is from Elizabethan age. Again, one more. She is the rose glory of the day, also from Elizabethan age. Resembles life that once deemed of life, Romantic age. This is also from Romantic age, and this is from Puritan or Caroline, whatever it is. You know that Elizabethan writers, just after Elizabethan writers comes Puritan writer, John Milton, and after that only Romantic writers come, which means that B or C never comes first. B and C should be in the last. Here, You can see that B and C are not in the last. Here, the option given by them is actually 1. A, D, E, B, C. A means Spencer comes first. D means Milton comes second. E means Shakespeare comes third, which is not at all possible, isn't it? Because Shakespeare's sonnet was published in quarto form in 1609. Shepherd's Calendar was published in 1579, was published in 1579, but usually associated with 1590 to 96 works. Okay, because it was a complete work later. Anyhow, even Spencer comes first or Spencer comes before Shakespeare, it is not even possible Milton before Shakespeare, which means that this A, D, E, B, C is actually truly wrong. A means again Spencer, D means Milton. Only after Shakespeare, Milton comes. So, question ID 416, this would also be challenged. Next one, question ID 423. So regarding this particular thing, based on the introduction of Indian writing in English as a course of study in various universities, you need to arrange these universities in the chronological term. And Central University of English, Hyderabad, University of Mysore, Karnataka University, Andhra, Osmania University. And the correct option given is DBACE. D means Andhra University comes first. Actually, regarding Andhra University, Professor Srinivasa Iyengar prepared his lectures on Indian writing in English here. So actually, this was the basis for Indian writing in English in Andhra University in 1958. And being integrated into the curriculum short after 2001 itself. So Andhra University comes first. That is actually right. But the thing about the University of Mysore is that Srinivasa Iyengar wrote or prepared his lectures here, but it came to the curriculum because the question is very specific in terms of offering courses. That is the question. Okay, so it need to be integrated in the curriculum. It only began in 2001. But regarding University of Mysore, they started or they pioneered the introduction of new papers in their MA course in 1965. So B comes first. Karnataka University actually follows the Mysore or Andhra timeline in formal English studies. Regarding Osmania University, the same. And actually, this is actually wrong. University of Mysore or B comes first. Here, the option given is 4. So again, the question ID is 423. Coming to the next one, the question ID 441. Match the following. You can see some essays being mentioned there of marriage, of solitude, and assumed and of toleration. Here the correct option given is 3. You can see 3 as A3, B1, C2, and D4. A3 means Francis Bacon wrote an essay on death. Actually, Francis Bacon wrote Of Marriage and Single Death. One of the famous essays written by Francis Bacon. But here he says, they says that regarding 1, it corresponds to B. Thomas Fuller wrote Of Marriage. That is truly impossible. He wrote about various aspects of life in his the Holy State in 1642, but not particularly of marriage. Okay, here for all these options you can see that regarding 1, it corresponds to B itself as well as B1 and B2. That is actually wrong. Francis Bacon also wrote about it's actually about of death, not titled as an essay on death. It's actually of death. And Old Solitude is actually written by Montaigne. Later, Abraham Cowley and Samuel Johnson also made statements about that. Okay, Abraham Cowley wrote the essay of Solitude. And Sir Thomas Browne wrote actually Religio Medici, not of toleration. He actually wrote about the peaceful and meaningful life, religious toleration, and all other things in Religio Medici, but not particularly an essay title of toleration. So this is also could be challenged. A question ID 441. Coming to the next question, question ID 452. Again, match the following. You can see some archetype symbols from Carl Jung. So you know archetype symbols are universal images, characters, or motifs that tap into humanity's collective unconscious. representing shared images and meanings and so on across cultures, making narratives that resonate deeply by connecting fundamental human patterns. It was first introduced or came into theory by Carl Jung. Okay, and also Northrop Frye. So here some common archetypal symbols are given there and also their symbolic meanings. The sea, rivers, sun, serpent, associating with creative energy, wisdom, the mother of all life, and death and rebirth. And coming to the common archetypal symbols, actually waters like sea and rivers are always becoming very common in all cultures, among all cultures. You can see rivers relating to creation, rebirth, then infinite possibilities, life or death, whatever it is. Here C is associated with, option given is A3. C associated with mother of all life. We can connect it actually because relating death and rebirth, creation, mother of all life means combining everything as a general term. Reverse corresponding to B4, death and rebirth, the same. Sun corresponding to actually regarding sun and light, knowledge, intelligence, spiritual vision, life, consciousness, enlightenment, etc. Here C goes for creative energy. Okay, wisdom exists here, but again, C is associated with creative energy. Coming to serpent. Serpent associated with wisdom. No way at all. Because regarding psychology, Carl Jung interpreted serpent as an archetype of the unconscious and personal transformation, and not particularly wisdom. Okay, so again, this is actually wrong. This option is also wrong. And again, here the questionnaire is 452. So these are the particular questions. Once again, it out. Question ID 399 from Northrop Frye's Anatomy of Criticism. 404 about this is not sure, but again, I am saying this is ambiguous. There are chances to be dropped. Question number or question ID 412, question ID 416, question ID 423, 441, and 452. These are the questions that could be challenged. And again, remembering or making you remind that answer key, the objection could only be given up to 11:50 p.m. January 17. So it's actually, we have less hours left. So use it very productively and use it very meaningfully. And last date of payment is also January 17, 2026 till 11:50 p.m. So hope this session is very much helpful for you to identify all the challenging questions that you can. So challenge it. Okay. So for these kind of videos, please follow our YouTube channel and please join our guidance group too. Thank you. Thanks a lot.